Okay, great. So the recording has now started. I will now hand over to the chair, Councillor Anna Abella.
Thank you, Naz. Good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Anna Abella, and I am the chair of the Licensing Committee. We're going to start off with introductions, and I'm first going to open the floor to my fellow councillors to introduce themselves. Councillor Blake, would you like to go first?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Barbara Blake, Seven Sisters Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Amin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Councillor Kaushika Amin. I'm a member of Northumberland Park Ward.
I'll now ask our legal officer to introduce himself.
Evening all, I'm Sadiqur Rahman. I'm the legal officer for Caringay Council.
Thank you, Sadiqur. Ms. Barrett?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dale Barrett, the licensing team leader.
Thank you. And Naz, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening. I'm Nazia Chowdhury, the Principal Committee Coordinator and Clerk to this committee.
I am now going to ask the applicant for Traditional Cafe and Tea House to introduce himself. Both Mr. Michael Lambrou and his representative, if he's on the call.
No, I haven't got a representative. I'm just myself, Michael Lambrou.
Thank you, Mr. Lambrou. And we have the objectors to the Traditional Cafe and Tea House. So I think Councillor Emily Arkell, you're here in this capacity.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Councillor Abella. My name's Emily Arkell. I'm the councillor for Bounds Green.
Thank you. And there were a number of residents who also objected to this. Are any of them on the call? The residents who objected to Traditional Cafe and Tea House.
Yes,
I think Miss Simpson.
Hello, I'm here. I don't know whether you can hear me, but I'm here.
Thank you, Miss Simpson. Do we have Mr. Lubitsch and Mr. Cohen on the call? I don't think we do. I'd then like to move on to the applicant for the Victoria. Could you kindly introduce yourselves?
Sorry, Chair, I think Mr. Lubitsch has just entered the room.
I see. Mr. Lubitsch, can you hear me?
I can indeed, yes.
Excellent. I'm Anna Abel. I'm the councillor who chairs the licensing committee. Could you kindly introduce yourself to the other members present in the meeting?
Yes, I'm resident. I live on Parkhurst Road. I'm director of the Midlands Road Community Benefit Society. There might be a few other people from there on here already. So take a keen interest in what's going on the road, and I suppose given all the positive things that have happened in the last few years, I'm a little concerned.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
Can we
it's,
not?
Yes,
it's just
that's it. Okay,
yeah,
that's the
just that's the intro. Your name
yes.
and
Okay.
Your title. Could the applicants for the Victoria introduce themselves, please?
Yes. Hello. My name is Liam O'Hare. I am the agent for the application for Victoria, and we've got Sarah here, Sarah Holgate, who is the owner, operator, landlady. And then to my left, we have Anita Lashley, who is very kindly taking time out before her salsa class to offer warm words of support.
Thank you. So I think supporters will be asked to introduce themselves separately. So could I hear from any objectors to the Victoria that are on the call? I'm not sure I see any on my screen. I will just check the fuller list. Are any of the objectors on the call?
It doesn't seem to be any objectors that I can note, Chair, but there is an additional person on here under the name of guest. If they could say who they are, please. Hello, if you can say who you are, it's all right if you're just a member of the public just watching, or if you're from the press, just to say who you are, please, just for the notes.
So there's an individual who's coming up as guest unverified. They've posted in the chat to say they're a member of the public.
Public just watching.
That's watching. And do we have any supporters for the Victoria who are in the meeting?
Yes, that would be the Anita Lashley.
Thank you, Miss Anita Lashley. Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available for public viewing. Clark, are there any apologies for absence, please?
Yes, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillor Sheila Peacock, and in her place, Councillor Kaushika Amin will be substituting.
Thank you, Naz, and thank you, Councillor Amin, for stepping in. Clark, are there any items of urgent business we need to consider?
None reported, Chair.
Thank you. And do the members, my fellow councillors, have any declarations of interest to make?
No declarations, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Councillor Amin?
Yes, I'm a member of Northumberland Park, where the pub Victoria is based. And not that I know it terribly well, but as a non-alcohol drinker, but it's in my ward.
Sorry, Chair. The Victoria.
Yeah, it's come in. Do come in, Naz.
It's down as Tottenham Hale.
Yeah.
Is it? That's wrong. Is it? Oh well, that's fine.
Yeah, it is down as Tottenham Hale. So
yes, it's Tottenham Hale.
Yes.
It depends on which side of the boundary it is. That's what it is. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you so much, Naz.
Thank you, Naz. So I will now summarise the procedure we're going to follow. The procedure for the meeting has been emailed to all participants by the clerk ahead of this meeting. For the purposes of any members of the public watching, we will first hear from the licensing officer. After that, the applicant will present their case to the subcommittee. The objectors and the subcommittee will have the opportunity to ask questions. Then the objectors will present their representation, and the subcommittee and applicant will have the opportunity to ask questions. All parties will then have the opportunity to sum up, and then the meeting will conclude to allow the subcommittee to deliberate and reach a decision. This decision will then be provided in writing within 5 working days of this meeting. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the chair. We will take all the papers that were circulated ahead of this meeting as read, so there is no need to summarise the content unless there is anything you wish to draw our attention to. All speakers will be allocated 5 minutes to speak. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated time unless you request an extension of time, which is at the discretion of the chair. Please do not share addresses of speakers. In the event that there are several speakers for each party, please avoid repetition, and you may wish to consider having a spokesperson to address all concerns. We will now move first to consider the application for a variation of an existing premises license at Traditional Cafe and Tea Store. Ms. Barrett, please can you introduce your report?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, Chair, can I just clarify first and foremost, but that is not a variation there. This is in fact a new application. Yes, it's a new application.
Thank you, my apologies.
That has been, no, sorry, that was my error on the report there, Chair. It's a new application that's been submitted by Mr. Michael Lambrou for the Traditional Cafe and Tea House. You can see at section 1.2 of the report there that it's seeking just for the sale of alcohol for consumption on the premises, Chair, and that would be from 10 a.m. until 11 p.m. each day, and the hours for open to the public being from 9 a.m. until 23:59 hours. The application form itself states that the premises is a traditional cafe and tea house, Greek, it says, and it would be for men only is what the initial application form was seeking. The application went through the consultation period, Chair, and it received various representations there. We have representations from some of the responsible authorities, which I will run through in a little bit, which have now been withdrawn, but we're here this evening, Chair, because there are outstanding representations from residents and a ward councillor. In terms of what the committee is able to determine on this matter, once you've heard from all parties, you may decide to grant the application as requested, grant the application whilst imposing additional conditions and or altering it in any way as you may see fit from the proposed operating schedule, or exclude any of the licence for activities, or to reject the whole or part of the application, obviously given good and clear reasons for your determination. In terms of background, the premises are situated in a terrace of shop units with residential above. The planning officer's representation is very important to this application, as Mr. Lambrew's intent was to operate a social club for men only. The planning representation and intervention from the officer has made clear that would be contrary to the planning permission, and the premises must operate as a cafe that is open to all and does not have any membership requirements at all, Chair. Throughout the report, Chair, you have got the relevant parts of the licensing policy to take into consideration when deliberating these matters, as well as the licensing hours in section, what the policy says on licensing hours in section 4 of the report, Chair. So if I turn attention to the representations. So the police did make representation, Chair. They have proposed a number of conditions. They've asked for the hours to be pulled back also on this application. Yeah, hours to be pulled back on the application. Proposed a range of conditions that the applicant, Mr. Cohan, was the agent acting for Mr. Lambrew. He did, in fact, agree on behalf of Mr. Lambrew to all the points raised in the police representation. We have also the letter from the licensing, the representation from the licensing authority, which is also seeking to pull back the hours being requested. It's also got proposed conditions relating to no gambling to be permitted on the premises and no sighting of gaming machines, etc. And also following through with the matters raised by the planning officer, which is citing that the premises cannot be operated as proposed by or has been applied for by Mr. Lambrew. It must be turned into a proper cafe with cooking and meals being available to all members of the public being able to come in and attend the premises, basically. Mr. Lambrew has, through his agent, Mr. Zedek, agreed to all of these things, Chair, and I suppose we're here this evening because residents were not prepared to withdraw their representations, Chair, as they feel that this would be another premises which may then get the license and continue or want to continue on as a social club and not actually follow through on any of the promises that have been put forward, Chair. And Chair, just to sum up, you should take into consideration also the Section 17 of the Crime and Disorder Act 1998 and also the Human Rights Act come into play here this evening, Chair. And there I can end, Chair, if you wish to hear from if you have any questions for me, in fact.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Councillor Amin, Councillor Blake, do you have any questions for Ms. Barrett?
Don't straight away, I'm afraid. Right now, anyway. Thank you.
No questions from me, Chair.
Thank you both. Mr. Lambrew, do you have any questions for Ms. Barrett at this stage?
Well, I don't know where the Just for Men came from, because that was never mentioned anywhere, Just for Men. to be allowed in there, because anyone's allowed in there, and men and women do come into the shop.
Ms. Barrett, is this a point you're able to clarify? Where was the just for men raised?
believe
Was
that
it in the
came through-
application?
Yeah, I believe that came through the discussions between the planning officer and the agent. And in fact, more to the point, the planning officer's matters were, what was put on the application form was it's going to be members only. And the planning officer is saying, actually, no, your planning that you have in place here and now does not allow for this to be a members only kind of operation that the premises can be used for.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Councillor Arkell, do you have any questions for Ms. Barrett at this stage?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Simpson, do you have any questions at this stage?
I'm just wondering, what is the final thing that has been agreed as regards the hours for the sale of alcohol? Is it from 10 a.m. to 2200, as on a document that I was sent, or is it in fact different from that?
Right. So what has been agreed with the police is 10 a.m. to 2200 hours, but obviously the matter is still live and it is going to be up for the licensing subcommittee members here to determine whatever time they feel is appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. So we'll now hear from the applicant, Mr. Lambrou, who will be asked to present his application. You have 5 minutes, Mr. Lambrou. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. First thing I would like to say is that me and my partner, we own 5 shops in Middleton Road. Our fathers passed it down to us from 1989. So we know this road very, very well. A few of the things that were put into the emails about the prevention next door to us, people have been putting up this that obscure sort of thing on the windows, and they said that next door, number 80, being number 80 Middleton Road, that they've put it up because we're there. That's been on that window for 7 years. We actually own that property as well. It's never been a gentleman's only premises. We're very aware there's a nursery next door. 60–70% of the customers are between 70 and 90 years old. So they've got great grandkids. Everyone there, we've never had a problem there with anybody. As I say, we know that road very, very well. The application for men only, I don't know where that came from, because as I say, we have ladies coming in there as well. It is open to anybody to come in and have tea, coffee, a sandwich. It has a working kitchen. As I said, I've held licenses most of my life, never had a problem once. The reason why, John Ayres, which works in the council, he came down when we covered the windows. He came in on a day when it was very hot. He can vouch for this. And because the front of the shop is all glass, we've put that up to stop the sun coming through. It was too much. Then he asked me to get rid of it and put curtains up. When it's hot, close the curtains, which I did. But if you come to the shop at any time, the curtains are open. Anyone is allowed in. Anyone. It's not just gentlemen. And as I say, there's not much more I can say. I'm happy with that.
Thank you, Mr. Lambrou. We'll now take questions for you. I'm going to start off with a few questions of my own, and then I'll turn to councillors Amin and Blake for their own questions. My first question is, your premises is called a traditional cafe and tea house, but the hours you are asking to operate at and serve alcohol at are quite late. So could you tell us a bit about the concept behind your premises?
Well, as I say, most of the customers, I mean, they're not, I wouldn't say they're heavy drinkers, or it's more light beers and shandies and things like this. But as I said, I mean, up to 10 o'clock, I don't think that's late. Do you think that's late, 10 p.m.?
We don't give our opinions during
Okay.
this meeting. We will deliberate in private after the meeting.
Okay.
Another question I have is that in the objections that we saw from residents, some residents have expressed the view that a late night drinking establishment could cause an intimidating atmosphere to the women working on the road or walking down the road. Is this something that you are concerned about, and how will you prevent this?
Of course, I'm concerned about that. As I said, 67% of my customers there, as I said, they're in their 60s, 70s. They've all got great grandkids. It's more, well, you know, because from the Greek background, you know, when you've got the older generation, you wouldn't get that. They keep an eye on everybody. They're not, how can I say, it's more of a family, you know, that one looks after the other and the other looks after the other and so on.
Thank you, Mr. Lambrew. I'll ask one more question and then I'll hand over to my colleagues. Your premises is nearby to a nursery. What measures are you planning to take to ensure that your premises does not undermine the child-friendly environment that residents would like to see at this location?
First of all, we as I said again, I go back to the it's more of a family. The customers there have got great grandkids. Everybody keeps an eye on everyone. And to be honest, there are a few unsavory people that go up and down the road. And if anything, we deter them from coming up and down the road. We've all got I've got 3 grandkids myself, so we understand that it's very important. We've never caused any noise or anything to next door or anyone there.
Thank you, Mr. Lambrew. Councillor Amin, do you have any questions for Mr. Lambrew?
Just a few, Chair, just to ask, I mean, just want to get a feel for who and where people live, the people who are currently using your cafe. And will you change the name of the cafe from a tea? It, you know, sounds like that's going to change slightly. What you provide is going to change. So I just wondered of the impact on all of that. Just to try and get a feel for where people are coming from would be a start, please.
Well, I'd say people are coming from a 2-3 mile radius, because actually, I don't know if you're aware, but Palmer's Green and Wood Green and then Winchmore Hill, there's a lot of Cypriot people, Turkish people. They're from around the area. They're all from around here. It's more, when I say traditional, like if you went to Cyprus or Turkey and you have the coffee that we make and that sort of stuff, and some of the soups and some of the cakes, it's more, I mean, as I said, 60-70% of the customers are 60, 70. I've got a 90-year-old customer that comes there to have his coffee and pass his time. It's more, they're from, I wouldn't say more than a 3 mile radius. And I'd say that's 90% of the customers.
Mm-hmm. Can I also ask that I know there's objections, and I just wondered what your relationship is like with local residents, because it seems to me one of the issues is about working with your local community. So I just wondered what kind of relationship you've got with local residents.
Well, never had a problem, to be honest. As I said, because we own 5 or 6 properties in that, I mean, across the road is the Renaissance, the coffee. We own that place. Yeah, I get on fine. I mean, the lady right across from our shop, she's just opened a candle. She's selling candles, and she started a new business. We've sent her customers. We've shopped from her. We get on with everybody.
And the nursery, which is next to your building,
never had a problem.
Have you talked to them about the proposal, the application for licensing today? Have you spoken to them about it?
No, to be honest, I haven't.
Okay.
But as I said, I mean, when the kids are coming back into the nursery or coming out of the nursery, I'm always around. It's been fine. I haven't, I mean, if they would have come over and said, look, there's too much noise, or there's this or there's that, I'd deal with it straight away. But as I said, I've had license for years. I've never had a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I mean, before I move to Councillor Blake, I'd just like to explain that we have a process that we need to follow in this meeting. So for that reason, we ask you not to use the chat to pass comments. If you're listed as a speaker, you will be given time to speak in due course. Councillor Blake, would you like to ask questions of Mr. Lambrew?
Yes, please. Mr. Lambrew, so you have your clientele, you're saying, is generally older people, 60s,
Yes.
70s up to age 90, and they generally drink light beers and shandy, and you serve tea, coffee, cakes, soup and sandwiches.
Yeah.
So why do you, what benefit, why do you want to increase the hours that you can serve alcohol? I mean, for what reason? Is it because you obviously want to keep people there longer, but I mean, if people are drinking a shandy and they're 90 and they've got to get home to look after their grandchildren, I don't quite understand what you're saying in terms of why you want to have this increase.
Well, it's not so much having the, I mean, it's more weekends, and when there's parties on or a birthday, or most of them have got big families. I mean, I've got 6 brothers and 2 sisters. My partner's got 4 brothers, and so what I'm saying, if not every other week, there's a birthday, there's a christening, there's something's going on.
So is that really what you want to do then? That you want to have your establishment to hold events in birthday parties, christening?
No, but I just gave that as an example. I mean, obviously that's not the case, but I'm open to all. What can I say? I mean, it's not about parties and whatever, but I don't see where the thing is about the hours. I mean, 10 o'clock, is that late?
I'm asking you. I'm just asking you, Mr. Lambrew. I mean, I just wondered why you this increase. I mean, do you serve food? Do you advertise? Do you have menus? I mean, do you change the menus? Are the menus advertised?
Well, the menus are, they're not advertised, but as I said, it's a set meal every day. So it's more, one day it's something with rice and meat, and the next day it's vegetables, and the next day it's pasta. It's usually every day there's something different every day, but it's not a new.
But I mean, if I was passing, and I mean, how would I know? I mean, all right, it says traditional tea cafe and tea house, but how would I know if you don't advertise the food or what you serve? Then how would I know? How would I be able to sort of walk down the street and think, right, that's it's a cafe, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to have my lunch there? How would I know that? I mean, what I'm trying to understand is, you say that it's not a club, but then how are you getting, and it's open to everyone.
Yeah.
But how are you encouraging everyone to go in there if you don't advertise on the door what exactly it is you're selling, and what your menu is.
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
really, then you've got, so it's, and let me just say, I would find it quite intimidating to walk into a cafe that I didn't know what they were serving. If I wanted to go in, have my lunch there, take my grandchildren, and you didn't have anything advertised, I would find it very difficult to go in there. So do you not think that other people, and that perhaps the perception that it is just a men only club has come from the way that you are running the organisation?
Okay. Now, since the day I've moved in there, as I said, I've had John Ayres from planning come into the shop, take this off the windows, put the curtains. Then I wanted to put up some on, you know, make a sign on top with the name and put menu onto the windows. You can't do this until I come. Don't do this until you show me. And because the application, once this application is done, all of that will be done. But as I said, John Ayres said to me, you can't put a sign on top. I've got to see it first. Take the obscure sticky stuff off the windows, put curtains up, which I did. Once we're done today, I want to do the sign the next week, and there will be on the windows, there will be a menu, there will be menus in there. But as I said, I've just had a few obstacles where you can't do a sign on top until I look at it. Then I had to take all the sticky stuff off, which helped the sun, as I said, the whole shop front's glass. So the heat that was coming in, and John Ayres was there at the time, and he agreed with me, but he said, you have to take that off, which I did. And I put curtains. When it's very hot like that, I've got to work out, I think my route will be to put blinds. But as I said, it's just because I've had licenses everywhere, and I've never had this much sort of obstacles. To be fair, it's the first time in Haringey that I've gone for a license. Anywhere else I've done it, it hasn't been, I don't know, it's maybe because the neighbours objecting, or it's been obstacles all the way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. I am going to have to repeat that we should not be using the chat during this meeting. So I'd like to ask the individual who has been posting in the chat to cease doing so. Councillor, I mean, I'll come to you shortly, but Ms. Barrett has had her hand up, and I think she might want to clarify a specific point.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was just to clarify that this is in fact a new premises license. It's not a variation or intending to extend hours or anything like that. This is in fact the first time that the applicant, Mr. Lambro, is seeking an alcohol license for the premises at 78 Middleton Road. Okay. And can I just also clarify that the issue that Mr. Lambro has just raised regarding signage is because any changes to the outside, to the facade of the shop, does require planning permission. So he will need to go back to planning to get any signs, illumination, things he wants to put up, all needs to be done under planning and not under licensing.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Councillor Amin, did you have more questions that you wanted to ask of Mr. Lambro?
I do, yes, Chair. There's just a couple of things. One is just I wanted to be clear about what's going to be on the windows. Will people be able to see people sitting at tables, and will it be transparent so that you can see who's in the premises, that kind of thing? And two, I think if you've got a license, how will you manage if somebody becomes slightly rowdy or difficult? I mean, I'm slightly anxious that it's a very residential area and it's got a nursery next door to it, and licensing proposals are very early in the morning to late at night. I'm just anxious about the kind of ways in which all of that will be managed, people's behaviour if it gets difficult. How will Mr. How will it all be managed, please?
Well, as I said, I've held licenses for more than 30 years. And the thing I would like to say is that because the first license I did, it was always for my late father's restaurant. So there weren't a chance to make a mistake. We always learned from early, before you give someone too much to drink. That's why the food will be involved. If someone eats and drinks, then it's less likely that they will drink until they can't drink anymore. Secondly, I'd say the experience I've got, it will help me a lot. But as I said, I've held licenses for more than 30 years. And to be honest there, I mean, next door to our right is the estate agent. He's a friend. As I said, the Renaissance Cafe across the road, the lady that's doing the candles, the head, I know them all. I know them all along there. And to be fair, we get on fine with everyone. The windows, I'm going to sort that out. I have to sort that out. But as I said, because it's glass and the heat comes straight through, and as I said, John Ayres was there when it actually happened, and he agreed with it. And he told me, try putting curtains up, so that when it does get that hot, unless I change the whole shop front, but we're talking, as I said, it's just from the beginning, it's been, I don't know, extending the hours. I don't know where that came from, because as the lady's saying now, it's a new
life.
It's
sure.
a new life.
Okay, sure, I understand.
So I've been having sort of obstacles here and there. Okay.
I'm just trying to understand your the work you're doing. That's all. I'm just trying to get an understanding of it, and it doesn't. You can't understand it without asking questions. But thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Amin. Councillor Blake, would you like to ask another question?
Yes, please. Yeah, apologies for it was because it says a variation that I know you said it was a new application, but I was just reading and it said variation. So apologies for causing confusion. But can I just ask of Ms. Barrett, please, that to put menus in the window, you don't need planning permission. It's actually signs and things. But do you need planning permission to put menus in the window?
No, you won't need the menus, not for that, no, because you can always laminate your sign from the inside on your window, so people can see from the window. That's not what the planning officer is talking about. It was actually the change. He does mention it in his response to the agent, actually. It was the new signage that was being spoken about. That will need, above the door, that will need to have planning permission.
Right, okay, thank you. That's it from me.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Mr. Lambro, I have one final question for you. We read in the pack that some of the objectors mentioned that certain residents were reluctant to put in an objection to your application because they feel intimidated by your clientele. Is this something you're aware of, and what is your response to this?
Well, my response to that would be that I haven't seen any evidence of that. As I said, I mean, if you came there at 10, 11, 12, 1, I mean, as I said, 60, 70, 80-year-old, we have a 90-year-old customer. I mean, I've been there and never had anything sort of, I mean, as I said, they come in and they'll have their coffee and chat about what's going on back home in Cyprus, and I've never had anything like that. And I wouldn't allow that. If I saw anything like that, I wouldn't allow that. If you don't get on with the neighbours, then what's the use of being there?
Thank you, Mr. Lambro. Councillor Arkell, do you have any questions for Mr. Lambro at this stage?
No, I don't, thank you.
No. And Ms. Simpson, do you have any questions for Mr. Lambro?
No, I don't have any questions. I have one or two comments, but not questions.
Thank you. You can come to your comments when you make your representation. So we will now hear from those who have submitted representations. So we had representations from Councillor Emily Arkell, Caroline Simpson and David Lubitsch, who are in the meeting. Would you all like to speak briefly, or would you like to pick a representative who will among the three of you who will speak on your behalf?
I'd like to speak briefly.
And I would as well, please.
Yes. Sadikur, should I split the 5 minutes between the different speakers? Or should I give them all 5 minutes?
I think
Sorry,
you
Chair.
might. I think you could probably give them all 2 minutes each, perhaps.
Thank you. So, Councillor Arkell, you have 2 minutes to present your representation.
Okay, thank you. I'll be quick. So I'm objecting to the application because a group of residents have approached me as their councillor in Bounds Green to object on their behalf to the application. They do not want to be identified because they do not want to face any backlash and intimidation from the establishment on the road that they frequent daily. The presence of a third de facto men-only club, and I know Mr Lambrou has disputed that, on Middleton Road will contribute to an intimidating atmosphere for women on the street. The issue of street harassment of women on Middleton Road has been raised with me as a councillor, and I've shared these reports with the Safer Neighbourhood policing team. The concern about harassment of women on Middleton Road and the surrounding area led to the recent ward panel meeting hosted by the Safer Neighbourhood team to prioritise women's safety in the Bounds Green ward at its most recent meeting on the 22nd of January. There's been no building control approval of 78 Middleton Road since it was reopened, and the most recent application was in June 2023, according to the council's planning portal. There are only a string of rejected applications at that address. And if the building hasn't been approved as safe to use by building control, this seems likely to be a public safety.
I think we've lost Councillor Arkell.
Yes, we have, Chair.
Perhaps Naz, would you be able to get in touch with her to see if she's having issues with her internet connection?
Yeah, I'll see if I know she's online.
I'm just going to give this a couple of minutes just to see if we can get Councillor Arkell back.
Okay, that'll give me a couple of minutes to solve the problem. Okay, great. Councillor Arkell, I think you're back.
Councillor Arkell, your internet connection stopped working halfway through your intervention.
Yeah, do you want me to carry on from where I think I finished, where it cut
Yes,
out?
please. Yes, please.
So I was talking about building control. So there's been no building control approval of 78 Middleton Road since it was reopened, and the most recent application was in June 2023. And according to the council's planning
Can't
portal,
hear anything.
Mr. Lambrou, we can hear Councillor Arkell clearly. It might be a tech issue on your side. Would you like to continue, Councillor Arkell?
Yeah, I can carry on. So if the building hasn't been approved as safe to use by building control, this seems likely to be a public safety issue and is relevant to granting a premises licence. And I understand that there are accessibility issues, is that there is a single toilet access. And a resident who has been in contact with me today passed by the building earlier and saw someone smoking inside 78 Middleton Road, this in itself is a breach of the law under the Health Act of 2006, which bans smoking in enclosed spaces. Presumably smoking inside the premises should trigger a fire alarm, yet this didn't happen today when the resident passed by. So I question if there are functioning smoke alarms in there, which is something else building control would require. Residents have told me that they do not want to publicly object and put their name on a licensing objection when some of the people who frequent 78 Middleton Road have been described as unfriendly older men who are intimidating to some local residents who use the shopping facilities on Middleton Road. And I understand from the residents who have shared this with me that the patrons of the traditional cafe and tea house have complained about local residents who have expressed concerns about the patrons at the premises to the Bowes Park Community Association and the We Love Middleton Road group. And then finally, there is a nursery next door to the premises, and the parents and staff who work here have to negotiate groups of men drinking and smoking outside the doors in groups right next to the nursery. So in summary, the reasons I've outlined above regarding public nuisance, safety and protecting children from harm provide sufficient reasons why the licensing application for 78 Middleton Road should be rejected. And I urge the Chair of the Licensing Committee, Councillor Abella, and Councillor Baker and Councillor Amin to reject this, as granting an alcohol licence to these premises could increase public nuisance and crime and disorder and endanger public safety.
Thank you, Councillor Arkell. I'll now turn to Ms Simpson. Would you like to make your presentation?
Yes, I agree with what the Middleton Road group and Councillor Arkell have said. I don't think that we need another premises like this on the street. I do understand that the owner has said that it isn't a men-only thing, but actually I have never seen a woman enter that building, and I go up and down that street really very often. I think it is detrimental to the street to have another one like this, and I believe that the license should be refused. I certainly think that if the licensing committee thinks that they're going to grant them a license, that the hours that are suggested are far too long. Perhaps if people are eating a meal, they might like a drink from about 11:30 or 12 o'clock. But I just think that the whole application is wrong. And if I may say that actually I do know women who work on the street who have told me how uncomfortable they feel as it is already, let alone how it would be if it had an alcohol license and all the rest of it.
Thank you, Ms Simpson. Mr Lubitsch, would you like to make your presentation? Mr Lubitsch, are you still online? Mr Lubitsch, are you still online? It looks like Mr Lubitsch is unable to intervene at this point, so I'm going to move to questions. I have a couple of questions myself, and then I'll open the floor to my fellow councillors. So I have two questions for Councillor Arkell. The first is a point of clarification. So you said that there was a meeting specifically to address women's safety issues on that specific road. Was the meeting held due to concerns about the specific premises that we are discussing today, or was it a more general meeting? And during that meeting, was this particular premises brought up as a cause for concern?
So it was a ward panel meeting, so that's usually organised by the Safer Neighbourhood team in Bounds Green. and it was around women's safety as a whole across the ward. But in particular, there were issues with street harassment in Middleton Road that came up, not specific to this premises, but on the street as a whole. And that's why we've chosen it as a priority to focus on by the Safer Neighbourhood team in their kind of, they've got a set of priorities that they've got to work towards, and women's safety and street harassment is one of those priorities.
Thank you, Councillor Arkell. My second question is, you mentioned that some residents did not feel comfortable submitting their own objection because they feared recrimination from the clientele at this establishment. Do you consider that these concerns are credible?
Yes, I do, because I've received them not just from one individual, but a number of individuals who have been in contact to explain that's why they didn't want to come to the meeting and to put their names to an objection to this application.
Thank you, Councillor Arkell. Councillor Amin, do you have any questions for either Councillor Arkell or Ms Simpson?
I don't, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Amin. Councillor Blake, do you have any questions for Councillor Arkell or Ms Simpson?
Yes. So I think it was you, Councillor Arkell, said that some of the patrons of the traditional cafe and tea house have complained about residents. Did I hear that correct? So
That's
do you,
correct, yeah.
what have the complaints been? What's been the issue there?
So as I understand it, it's been around some residents have complained to the two community groups I've mentioned, so the Bowes Park Community Association and the We Love Middleton Road group, around some of the issues on Middleton Road, and that has prompted complaints to those two groups from the various cafes that are on the road.
Okay. And you say that when the children come out of or parents collect the children from the nursery, they have to negotiate people standing outside smoking. But has anyone from the nursery complained to your knowledge about that, or is that just a supposition that people have to, negotiate their way through?
So they haven't complained directly to me, but I suppose the point is that, smoking and the effect that can have on young lungs in particular is not great. And I think what residents are concerned about is that granting the licence to this premises will mean that there could be more smoking outside, which about next door to the property, which is adjacent to the nursery on the corner.
Okay. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Mr. Lambrou, do you have any? Yes,
Can I just ask one question?
Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if there's been any complaints or any concerns raised by any businesses on Middleton Road. Any of those have they said anything at all?
Not to me.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't know if that was for me, but no, not to me. Sorry, Councillor Amin.
I was just going to say, Chair, that there was nothing in the pack. Obviously, nothing has come through during the consultation period in that way.
Councillor Belly, you're muted.
Apologies. Mr. Lambrou, do you have any questions for either Councillor Arkell or Ms Simpson?
Well,
Not. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I mean, the smoking outside. I mean, if someone goes outside to have a cigarette, what am I supposed to do if they go outside onto the street to have a cigarette? I mean, no one's complained along there. I'm there, and believe me, as I said, all these years that I've been doing this, or if you don't get on with the neighbours, then there's no use of being there. I mean, there's another 2 establishments on that road that have been there for how long, and we've come there in the space of the last 6 months, and all of a sudden, it's gone into a dangerous road. If anything, we've improved the road.
Mr. Lambrou, if I can ask you to frame your interventions as questions
okay.
at this stage. What is your question?
No, that's fine. I don't have a question. That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm now going to ask each party to sum up. Mr. Lambrew, would you like to sum up your position?
Yep. Well, I'd like to say that, as I said, I've been doing this a long time. We get on with everybody there. I look after everyone along there. There's ladies that come in. There might not be as many as the men, but ladies, anyone's allowed in there. The situation with the curtains and I haven't been able to put up a sign to say what it is. I mean, I get people coming along. What is it? Is it a restaurant? Is it a cafe bar? Is it? But I can't write on there until I get everything sorted. I can't write up there and do menus and do the right stuff that I need to do until I sort this out. As I was saying, it's just been obstacle constantly. Everything there, we keep an eye on everyone. Everyone's safe there.
Thank you, Mr. Lambrew. Councillor Arkell, would you like to sum up your position?
I think that the three areas that I talked about around kind of public safety, the prevention of public nuisance and protecting children from harm are really the points that I would just like to urge the members of the committee who will be making this decision, and that we've listened to residents who live either on Middleton Road or in the streets surrounding it around their concerns about the licensing application, and I would urge you to reject it this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Arkell. Ms. Simpson, would you like to sum up your position?
I don't really need to say any more. I mean, I really think it's an unnecessary application for the road. Yes, and it very definitely is a male space, dominated space at the moment, and quite a bit of the road is, but that particular bit is as well. And as a woman, I don't feel particularly comfortable.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. We will, as a committee, deliberate on our decision now that we have heard all the representations, and a decision will be provided within 5 working days of the meeting. We'll now move on to consider the next application in relation to the Victoria. Those individuals who joined to follow the item on the traditional cafe and tea house are welcome to stay for the second part of the meeting, but equally we will not take offence if you decide to log off to enjoy the rest of your evening. So we'll now move on to the next item. The next item relates to an application for a variation of an existing premises license at the Victoria. Ms. Barrett, can you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Lambrew, can you mute your mic, please? Or if you're going to stay on the meeting. You can actually leave the meeting because your section's actually finished now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. The panel has before them an application for a variation of an existing premises license at the Victoria at 34 Scotland Green. Apologies there, Chair, I've got the wrong name in there too. So the Victoria, the license was submitted on their behalf by the agent, Chair, and is seeking an increase in hours, Chair, on a Friday for the regulated entertainment from 10 till 1 a.m. in the morning, late night refreshment, that should be from 11 p.m. until 1 a.m. and the sale of alcohol from 10 to 1 a.m. in the morning for the supply of alcohol on the premises, where the premises are closing to the public by 1:30 a.m. on therefore the early Saturday morning, therefore. The application can be found at Appendix A, Chair, and there were representations, and we've included them in the pack, Chair, both from the Noise Team RA, and there are representations from residents who are in support of the variation, and also residents who are against the application. As before, Chair, in determining this matter, the committee may decide to grant the application as requested, grant the application whilst imposing additional conditions or altering in any way, excluding a license for activities from the application, or reject the whole or part of the application, provided, of course, clear reasons are provided. The premises is situated in Scotland Green. It's in a cul-de-sac. There are residential properties surrounding the premises. There is also another pub a few meters away called the Two Brewers, but this pub mainly only operates on Spurs home match days. The area also has another pub called the Blue Coats that is a late night venue also. At point 2.2, Chair, the planning officer has advised that the current planning permission and conditions attached to it only allow for the premises to actually operate until 2300 on any day. And any proposal to play music, live concerts, or amplified sound after 2300 on any day requires planning permission, as per the above, Chair. Maybe that's the time, Chair, to draw your attention to the additional, I believe that the applicants submitted some additional documentation that you should have a copy of, where they had gotten some guidance from a firm of solicitors in relation to this particular matter, Chair. But as you're aware, Chair, obviously the application as submitted is open to the panel to determine whatever hours the panel considers is appropriate, once you've considered the licensing objectives or the impact that what's being requested may have on the licensing objectives. You've got at section 3 there the matters from the licensing policy that you're aware of, Chair, as are the licensing hours. The application itself, Chair, we've got at Appendix B on page 85 the items that the noise officer had raised. Whilst they did not oppose the extension as such on the Friday, they asked for additional conditions to be considered, which the pub has accepted. They have also, on page 86, Chair, required that in the prevention of public nuisance, that no music will be played in any of the external areas, that the use of the rear garden shall terminate at 10:30, and that all windows and doors and so forth will be closed after 22:30. And they've also asked that regulated entertainment cease at midnight on the Friday. At Appendix C, Chair, you have the various letters in support. People have said that the pub is a community asset, that they are they've got the community at the heart of the operation, they've said. And then you also have, Chair, the representations that are saying that they feel that having an additional day will be a step too far for the residents, who are saying that it would be a further increase in noise levels, accumulation of rubbish, impact on the safety and well-being of local residents. And I think that's copied through on the majority of the letters, Chair, that are opposing the application, Chair. Chair, there I think I've summed up the matter before you. If you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. I don't have any questions, but Councillor Blake, Councillor Amin, do you have any questions for Ms. Barrett?
Sorry, Chair, I don't either.
Thank you. Councillor Blake?
No questions from me, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Does the applicant have any questions for Ms Barrett?
No, thank you.
No. Ms Lashley, do you have questions for Ms Barrett? No. So we will now hear from the applicant. Please, can you introduce your application? You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors. And thank you for your time tonight to discuss this variation. Since Eddie, Sarah and Dan took over the pub over a year ago, they've transformed it from being essentially a football match day space to something more akin to the more traditional role it would have served in the past, being a 7 days a week dedicated community hub. Sarah is a local owner, operator, landlady, and she saw this place as having the potential for delivering a more diverse and exciting offering for all of the community. They went about doing this by organising street parties for the King's coronation, as well as offering the function room free of charge for all of the community to use any day of the week. They've done this by building a space for everyone to feel at home and creating a space which is welcoming, fun, and a place of joy to spend your time and money. We've had wedding parties, kids parties, school Christmas parties, sip and paint evenings, trader partnership evenings, and this is really building the community as they planned. Sarah, having served the community for a year, has asked if they could have another couple of extra hours on Fridays. Saturdays have run weekly since reopening with no negative impact on the licensing objectives. This must be apparent to the chair and the committee as there are no responsible authorities here today. This is a vote of confidence from your experts on the present operation and the way we have conducted ourselves since moving in by promotion of the 4 key licensing objectives at the core of our operations. We recognise there is a planning informative today, but we believe there is no breach. In fact, the reasons raised by planning and what they are trying to achieve by the condition are ably protected by the Licensing Act. Steps taken to address any noise issues have been agreed between the applicant and the noise team. In fact, all the conditions suggested were already in place operationally and have just been formalised by bringing into the licence. The council's experts in this field have agreed with the applicant regarding operations on the premises, and the very fact they're not here tonight should give a lot of confidence because of the operation and the way it's running to such a high standard. We also sought a second opinion on the licensing from Keystone Law, who were the people who were involved in negotiating the lease for Sarah. And the planning was granted for a function room where there was always going to be music, always going to be joy, right at the heart of this operation. The wording of the condition is in fact clear. It prohibits live concerts and other amplified sound from emanating from the site in such a way, in the opinion of the Environmental Health Service, to cause a nuisance after 2300 hours to an adjacent occupier. The condition would only be a breach if music, live concerts and other amplified sound emanated from the site after 2300 hours, and that caused a nuisance in the opinion of the Environmental Health Service. If such activities took place after 2300 hours, but did not cause a nuisance, as we have been operating for the last year on Saturdays, there is no breach of this condition. If the committee is minded to accept the variation request, there is to be an additional 17 conditions added to the licence to reduce crime, address noise nuisance and protection of children from harm. With regards to noise nuisance specifically, the suggested condition is amplified music and bass shall not be played at a level that will cause unreasonable disturbance to the occupants of any of the properties in the vicinity. There are another 4 similar conditions to this that have been put in, and that is why the EHO are not here today. We have also operated since the day we opened a limiter on the sound system, and that has gone some way to reducing the noise impact on the residents. And don't forget, we have residents who live above us as well, and we've managed that very, very well. To those residents not familiar with our operation, we extend a warm invitation to them and would offer telephone numbers or emails so they can make direct contact with Sarah and her team. A security will always be about, which gives this area more surveillance, more protection and better residential amenity. And it also means the complaints can be dealt with in real time and professionally, always looking for a balance between trading and operation respectfully in this area. Finally, Sarah and her team employ a broad range of strategies to promote violence against women and girls policies. They have Ask for Angela in place to protect vulnerable people. They are very hot on spiking. And what is done is it is.
I am going to have to ask you to wrap up because your time is up. Could you kindly conclude?
Yes, I can. So Ask Angela to protect vulnerable people visiting the premises, as the profile of the user has changed considerably from football visitors to the broad local community. If you have any questions, please let us know, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have a few questions for the applicant, and then I'll open the floor to Councillor Blake and Councillor Amin to also ask questions. My first question is, how will you ensure that the time extension does not cause a noise disturbance for neighbouring residents?
We have a number of policies in place to ensure that we have the most quiet egress possible. So, for example, when events finish in the clubhouse, the function space, we use the front pub as an area to kind of contain guests. The pub closes a little bit before the event space. So if people are waiting for taxis or for buses, they can wait inside the pub rather than outside on the street.
It's also somewhere where they can charge their phone. We are sensitive to a woman with 1% on her phone is vulnerable. So we make this space available for them to come in, decompress, charge their phone, leave at a time when they're ready and when the taxis are available.
Thank you. Another issue that we saw in some of the objections to your application is that some residents were concerned that the variation could lead to an increase in environmental degradation and littering. How will you make sure that this is not the case?
Where we are located, we're actually located right next to a very large sort of a bin, like a kind of refuse bin. So this road, unfortunately, does see a lot of litter. Certainly on a windy day, as you know, it blows around quite a lot. We personally take the outside of the pub as part of our space. Our staff clear the area every night, and we take huge pride in making sure that the area is safe and presentable.
We would be open to accepting a condition which would say that regular litter collections must happen during the hours of operation and at the end of the evening as well. We do it anyway, so we'd be happy to accept that.
Thank you. And when you say that, does this mean that your staff will be picking any litter that your clients have dumped in the area outside your premises?
Even not our clients. You know, we like to think all of our clients are local, they have civic pride, but things happen, bins fill up. We would take responsibility for that. And we would make sure that the immediate area outside the premises is kept clean at all times, including cleaning up afterwards.
Thank you. In some of the objections we received, we heard concerns of antisocial behaviour and public intoxication at this location, and some of the objectors said that the entrances to certain apartments, to certain apartment blocks at this street were becoming sites, unfortunately, for public urination. How will you attempt to mitigate this antisocial behaviour and public intoxication?
So we run a public house. It is our parlour. It is where we want you to enjoy yourself and have fun and avail yourself of our toilet facilities. We are right beside a very, very busy bus stop where people are coming in and out of town and they've gone on long journeys. We witness, you know, things of urination ourselves. We would say that probably not our customers would go immediately outside. But again, if there were anything outside our immediate premises, human waste, whatever, we're a public house. We know that we have to deal with this, but I'm not sure we can take responsibility for the ills of everything which is happening in the area. We see it as well, and we hear it. We understand.
I'd just like to add something just to that. We have put CCTV outside the pub as soon as we opened, and a number of the residents who live across the road from us, where they have quite large entrances, have told us that they have felt much safer and seen a reduction in the use of drug use in their alleyways and sort of entrances because of the fact that it is now really well recorded on CCTV.
Thank you. I have one final question before I open the floor to Councillor Blake and Councillor Amin. In the pack, we saw a petition with signatures supporting your application. How did you collect these signatures, and how did you go about collecting these signatures?
Yeah, shall I do it? We just basically, we had a clipboard by the bar. We didn't put it out on football nights or football days. We wanted a local reflection on it. And we just gently asked people if they would do a letter of support, which nobody wants to do. So then it was just simply, do you agree with this brief, short statement? And we got a few people following, but it was very gentle. You know, we didn't go for the hard press on this.
So most of the individuals who've signed this petition are clients who frequent your pub?
Yeah, all of them. It was literally just a petition in the bar, and as people were being served, our bartenders just said, you know, we are applying for a couple of extra hours. Would you be in favour of signing our petition to support that?
I think if there was a like button, the customers could just come and press like. We probably would have had lots, but it's a hard push. So you know, we wanted to be quite gentle about it because people don't want to be annoyed when they come here. We had to ask.
Thank you. Ms. Barrett, would you like to intervene? You're on mute.
Sorry, I'd just like to echo what has just been said, that it was a light touch on the petition. So obviously it's not a valid petition. It didn't come within the time of the consultation period. It doesn't actually contain any valid addresses on there. So it can, you know, depending on down to yourselves, of course, as to what weight you put against it, but it's not seen as a valid petition because obviously it does not include anyone's addresses, but it's part of the documentation that the applicants wish you to consider nonetheless.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Councillor Blake, Councillor Amin, do either of you have questions you'd like to ask?
Yes, I do, Chair.
Go ahead, Councillor Blake.
So you've emphasised that you're a community pub. So why do you want to have this extra late night on a Friday? I mean, I would have thought, you know, you talked about you have kids parties, Christmas parties. Is it because you want to develop a particular, you know, I don't know, like a late night? Why would this be beneficial to you if you are a community pub? And by that, I sort of interpret that to be very much a family orientated family pub. So could you just give me some, you know, what's your thinking around having this extra time?
Sure, absolutely. My answer is twofold. First off, you know, obviously we are a small independent business, you know, facing the same economic situation that everyone is, especially in the hospitality industry. And for us, this is about building up resilience to ensure that we can have the longevity of this business in the future years. Secondly, it's about demand. You know, as Liam told you, we have, you know, we host weddings, we host birthday parties, christenings, you know, the full plethora of important celebrations. And the demand has already proven to be there for us on Saturdays. We're booked out on Saturdays right through the summer. And so I'm having to turn a lot of people away. Fortunately, closing and finishing a party celebration at 11 p.m. just isn't great. And so we're turning people away. They're going to other places in different areas, and we're losing business on those days.
Okay. Sorry, if I could just jump in as well, Councillor. the Mayor of London has identified a 6 to 6 economy, which is basically from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And there's anywhere between 800,000 and 1 million people work in that economy, and they're part of our community as well. So we're serving everybody from the daytime operation, where it's just a kids' party, where we know you'll come back because you've got 3 other kids, to the mid-afternoon crowd, to the football crowd, to the early evening crowd. I think Sarah probably said it more succinctly than me. It's building resilience, but we want to do that carefully and responsibly.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, had you finished? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you didn't. No.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess I mean, a few years ago, you know, there was a problem of pubs in town centres all turning out at the same time. And so, you know, there was started to vary the times. And I just wonder whether residents are uneasy, because if, you know, you're having, you know, if you're having a party there, and okay, you can make all of these arrangements to keep the noise down, you know, keep people inside when they're ordering a taxi. I heard all of that. But in one sense, you're perhaps just letting out quite a large number of people all together at the same time. And I wonder whether that's what people are worried about, particularly in the summer, if the weather's nice. I mean, is there any way, you know, do you, I know you, you know, I just wondered what you thought about that. Do you find that's the case? So, you know, you have a party, you say, right, you know, this is it, this is the end, everybody's out. And so a lot of people turn out, and that there's noise, you know, quite in the early hours of the morning.
Yeah, I suspect, I mean, what drives us is extreme sensitivity. We have residents who pay good rent, living directly above our establishment. We have residents across from us, and we have residents to the right of us. We have letters of support from people who live above the pub and 2 doors down, who say, it's fine, it doesn't bother us. But we have some residents who are slightly anxious at the thought of this becoming a regular weekly occurrence. We get that. I guess what the thing we're trying to do is, if we're able to manage our crowd and build a gradual dispersal, allow people to leave when they're ready by booking an Uber or walking around the corner or someone coming to collect them, it's a good thing. We have a lot of women who started coming into this pub, and they're coming in on their own because it's literally around the corner. It's a safe place. It's a safe space. We are free from yobbery. And I think if we weren't, the police would be telling you about this today. They'd be at the hearing. We engaged the police in pre-application. We spoke to them about our plans. We made them aware of who we were. We were on their radar, obviously, but they are satisfied in terms of crime and disorder. This is a well-run place, and your EHO has now agreed a raft of conditions which, if you're mounted to grant this application, will put in extra layers of protection, which we hope will go some way to assuaging any concerns that local residents have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Councillor Amin, would you like to ask your questions?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both for presenting the information so well. Can I just very brief questions from me, I'm afraid. They've all been covered by my 2 colleagues. I noticed there was things around questions around concerns about glass and you know, plastic or glass being carried outside. I just wondered about things like making sure that you know, health and safety is maintained at all times and nothing could happen outside the pub. I wondered about that. That was one thing. And 2, I mean, I think this thing about and I don't know whether this is particularly on football match days or when we have big crowds walking through the high road. I wondered if asking Tottenham Hotspur, if they want, I mean, if it is football supporters, I don't know, I'm just asking, but if it is football supporters, whether it's worth asking them to put some some of those plastic toilets that they put out near you guys or not. I mean, not that residents often don't like them as well at the same time. So it's kind of, I'm just thinking, I wonder whether it's a problem at certain times rather than on a daily basis. You know, I think the final thing is just kind of making it, you're very user friendly anyway, but you know, reminding people of good behavior as they leave or whatever, or use a toilet, you know, it takes such a long time to get to another one, that kind of thing. I just wonder if there's other ways of putting out friendly messages about, you know, looking after yourself and looking after the area too at the same time.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, first off, we already have, you know, we only use plastics, and we actually use reusable polycarbonate glasses on match days. We don't allow glass outside the front of our pub as a general rule. We also, you know, as Liam said, we actually allow people who, if somebody comes to the door and says, can I use the loo, we always allow them to use the loo. And we have signage both on the inside and outside of the pub to say this is a community residential pub. Please ensure that you leave quietly, etc. So we really do everything we can, alongside ensuring that all of our neighbours have our phone number, so if there is an issue, they can get in touch and let us know.
Okay, but other than that, I have no questions at all, Chair. Thank you so much. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you, Councillor Amin. Ms Barrett, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to give some clarification on some of the things said, please, if you allow me. Reference was made to the pub being just initially only operating on football match days. That was never the case. The Victoria's always operated across the entire week. There's a pub a couple of doors down, the Two Brewers, that only operates on match days alone and doesn't open up any other time but on match days. And of course you've got the other pub, which is the Blue Coat, which is facing the high road. Its entrance is on the high road, but obviously you know, it's all part of that cumulative bit that you're going to get there because you've got the 3 licensed premises in that location. The Blue Coats latest hours is on a Friday and Saturday through till midnight, I believe, or midnight midnight. So you may therefore get that impact, you know, of that pub closing and patrons then going to the Victoria. In fact, Councillor, you asked a question about toilets on event days. That's something that's covered entirely by Spurs under their blue book and their requirements as to what additional infrastructures they need to put in place on any given event days, be that for football, concerts, boxing, whatever that might be. But they're the ones in conjunction with meeting those requirements that will put those kind of things in place in the area. Okay, it won't ever fall to the pub to have to do that. You've also spoke about glass and so forth, so it's entirely down to the members to determine whether you feel that a condition can be considered to stop glass being taken outside after a certain time, so after 10 o'clock or whatever the case may be. And of course on match days then it should be no glass in any event, so the pub already complies with the match day conditions, one would assume. Okay, I'll stop there, Chair.
Thank you, Ms Barrett. Councillor Amin, did you want to come in again?
I mean, I understand it's Tottenham Hotspur, but and I understand it's you know, it's not a pub that just opens actually just for the matches or events at the stadium, so that I know anyway. I'm more saying, I think I'm more just thinking about if it is football supporters who are using the pub on that particular day, or you know, there's a couple of pubs there, so they might want to we might have to have a discussion, or you might have a discussion with Tottenham Hotspur just to think about whether that's a possibility, because it just alleviates some of the other pressures around the area. I mean, you know, so I don't know, but I'm not an expert in this at all, but I just wondered about that. That was all. And I think, yeah, the glass was just because it was mentioned in one of the objections. And it's, I mean, I do know, but I think it's always nice to get reassurances always. just that everyone's been thinking about it. So no, I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all. Thank you though, Dahlia, as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Amin. I'm not sure if Miss Lashley is still in the room because yes.
Our lighting's terrible.
Sorry,
Yes,
it's like
you're
lit
sitting
up
in the
and I wasn't
dark.
expecting us to be to be so dark on the screen, but she is absolutely here. I'm still here.
Fantastic. Miss Lashley, would you like to say a few words on your position as someone who expressed your support for this application?
Yes, so I've lived in the area for 36 years, and this pub, before it became the pub it is today, would be a pub that I would always just walk past. I didn't look like somewhere that was very inviting or anything like that. But last summer, not long after it had been reopened, I found myself popping in to have a game of pool, to have a soft drink. I was going through recovery at the time from an accident that I had, and it became a safe place for me because I wasn't at work. It was a place I could come, have a drink on my own, feel very safe and secure, I've forged some good friendships with people that I've met here. They have a quiz night that I attend regularly, so I come along to that. And it's somewhere where I will drop in after work, coming home from a hard day at work. Now I'm back at work. I might stop in here and have a drink as well. I find this pub is very community focused. During the coronation, there was a massive street party where there were stalls, food, there was a steel pans, and not just this local community that's right outside the pub, but the wider community came along and joined in with that as well. And it was a very fun day for the whole of Tottenham, I believed at the time, because it was such a lovely day. And then again, at Christmas, for the first time ever, there was a beautiful tree at the top of the road. There was a tree opening where they sang carols and things like that. And then later on, they did a Christmas fair, I think it was called, where there was carols, there were more stalls, there was food, and it was just a lovely day for all. And I think there was a little fair where children can have a few rides and things like that. So I think basically this pub, it tries to forge, it tries to bring the community together, forging friendships, putting on events, and I don't know what else to say about it. I just love it now.
Thank you.
And I've met, like I said, lots of friends here. There's other women that I've met here that will quite happily come in on their own as well, sit and have a drink or sit and talk about our day. And it's more than just a pub. I think it's just like a community centre in a way sometimes. Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Lashley. Councillor Blake, Councillor Amin, do you have any questions for Miss Lashley?
I don't.
No questions. No questions from me, Chair.
Thank you. Does the applicant have any questions for Miss Noshley?
No, thank you. Just thank you for coming.
Yeah,
along.
thank you. You should go and salsa now.
Times, but, no, I wanted to put it across how much this place means to me, and I suppose a lot of the other people that do come here as well. Yeah.
Very kind, thank you.
Thank you. So we can now move to summing up. Could the applicant sum up their position, please?
I can, yes. Thank you again for your time this evening. The Victoria's fortunes have been transformed since being taken over by Sarah and her team. There's now a diverse and truly local customer base taking advantage of the facilities and the investment that they have made to drag the pub into the modern era. It sounds very odd to hear pubs being described as community hubs, but they've lost that a little bit, I feel, and Sarah definitely feels that. And that's something that we're trying to bring back. The pub are asking for extra hours to tap into the opportunities created by what they've done on Friday openings at the stadium, but also for residents who get free use of the space, which keeps money circulating in the local economy. We are asking as well because demand is there and our Saturdays are now booked up. But they're a successful business looking to expand and they need to build resilience. It's a new young business being faced with crashing challenges all around them. And what they're looking for is a little bit of resilience because times are tough, and this ability to cope and cater for a hyper-local community is very valuable to us. There are no responsible authorities. The Council's experts in the 4 key licensing objectives are not present today. I ask the committee give this fact considerable weight when coming to a determination. If granted, the conditions agreed and with the noise team directly address the noise issue in a far more robust way than the planning condition, which is beset with ambiguity. What would be in place would be a modern premises license with checks and balances in place, which is more than what is there already. We hope that we can address any concerns about the extra trading with local residents and continue to make Victoria Pub a place for everyone in the area. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Lashley, would you like to say a few concluding remarks to sum up your position?
I've said it. The only thing I could add is like the diversity of the community that uses this pub in like age ranges, different cultures, things like that is very diverse. And the clubhouse is used by most of the community for functions such as birthday parties, engagements, weddings, and things like that, and children's parties. So, right up, yeah.
Thank you. So after this meeting, the committee will deliberate on our decision, and this will be provided within 5 working days of the meeting. This brings our meeting to a close. Thank you everyone for participating. And of course, I'll remind the councillors in the meeting that we will stay on to deliberate on our decisions on the 2 applications we heard today. Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.